Well, everyone, welcome back to another episode of At the Movies. Um, Today we have a special episode. So today it's going to be me and Brandon, but we also have the return of the famous James Faust. How are you, James?
Hello, I'm good. I'm cold-ish and ready to go.
Right on. And James has brought a special guest with him, a colleague from the film festival world. We have Beth Barrett from the Seattle International Film Festival with us today. How are you doing,
Hello,
Beth?
hello. I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. And so, one thing I want to start with is you guys are both artistic directors for both the Dallas International Film Festival and the Seattle International Film Festival. I guess we can just probably truncate it to SIFF and DIFF.
Yes.
Otherwise, I'm going to start to stumble over my words, and it's gonna be bad news. So yeah, first thing I want to ask is like, so I've worked in the creative direction world before, and I know what art directors do, but what exactly do artistic directors do for these film festivals?
I'll let Beth go because she does a lot more than I do.
Right on.
You say that's an excellent question that people ask me all the time. So essentially, what artistic directors do is establish the way that the organization uses film to advance its mission, and then work with the people that create that vision and that mission. So in my case, we have our 18 to 25, actually I think this year we have 27 programmers for the festival that we're sort of guiding and molding in to keep what we think the mission and the vision of the festival is. And then we also have 5 year-round art house cinemas that we run all year round. And so finding the films and the events and the film related experiences for those venues that also move the mission forward, and making sure the marketing is serving that mission, and making sure that when you're working with sponsors and donors, you're serving that mission, and sort of guiding what that looks like while not having to work with the budget or the spreadsheets.
Right on. I mean, that sounds like a dream job, if I'm being honest.
It is kind of a dream job. I mean, honestly, I watch movies for a living. I mean, what better job could it be?
And in better times, one of the great parts about that gig is, and especially with Seattle, because how many years you guys are, like 25, 30?
47.
40,
Where this is our 47th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew it was, almost as old as me. But the thing about this job is the fun part is, and how I met Beth. Like, I didn't meet Beth on native soil. I think first time Beth and I met were in Toronto, and then we've been to Belgium together. We've been to all this. It's been funny. So it's like finding those films from around the world, and that's probably one of the perks of this gig, is getting to travel and see all the cool things, and especially with Seattle being such an international city, and part of the one of the charms about that is where you're located in the world, in proximity to, let's say, a lot of Asian films as well. Which I remember you had a really big, I came to a party and there was a lot of, I forgot what union that was. I was like, man, this is great.
China Stars.
English. China Stars, yeah. I kept thinking, no one's speaking English here. Beth's got this on tap. I love this. It's like, so kudos to the international part of the job, because to that point, I mean, I'm doing the same things, and sort of the creative identity of the festival. We don't have theaters that we run, so for me, it's finding the films for our year-round programming and just keeping us into the forefront of everyone's minds from a film perspective. When you're thinking film in Dallas, think DIFF. And so we part of that same thing, and then programming the film festival, which we have nowhere near as many film goers as film programmers as Seattle does. Because one of the cool things about Seattle Film Festival, and one of the very unique things about the Seattle Film Festival, is how long, in a pre-COVID world, and maybe even in this post-COVID world, usually you're like, a festival runs a big festival like Sundance will run 10, 11 days. You guys are usually what?
We have traditionally been 25 days.
Wow.
Yeah. That did change this year. We are April 8 to 18, so we're a mere 11 days, and I can tell you all this, mere 223 films, including short films. We used to In the before times, it'd be somewhere up above 400 films over those 25 days, including shorts.
It's truly a citywide film festival. I mean,
Yeah, it's all over the place.
That's incredible.
Well, and that's, I mean, part of the thing with artistic directors and, organizations, and I know, James, you've been doing this in Dallas, is you have to get this audience to trust that they want to see the Mongolian sheep herder documentary. And
yes.
and in order to do that, you have to show them amazing international films and say, no, you really have to see that, and years of no, see that. And then they're like, oh, well, James says I need to go see this Mongolian sheep herder documentary, so I guess I'll go do
How
that.
many
And
times
it's
has
not,
he said that to me? I can't count.
I know, right? It's like every time I see him, did you
Hey,
see?
Tom
No,
O'Connor, did you watch the Mongolian sheep herder doc?
I mean,
but
now I
it's
really
like,
hope that there is a Mongolian sheep herder doc, because now I want to watch it.
there are absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah.
we've shown
There's
them.
a niche for everything.
Yeah.
I guess
I mean,
my go-to is usually Albanian trafficking flicks, because
100%.
we did have an Albanian film one year, and the government reached out because of whatever rules we had against Albania at the time, and they said, "What are you getting from Albania? Like, what are you talking about?" Because the filmmakers were trying to come in and they'd submitted something, and it became an issue. I'm like, oh, Albania. So that's my go-to now. Like, yeah, it's an Albanian trafficking movie that can't wait to show. That's all legal because we don't want to have a trade embargo with them, I think. I don't know.
So Beth, you said you guys actually run 5 cinemas. Can you tell us
We
a
do.
little
This is
bit
one
about
of them, the Egyptian.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about the locations, and because you truly are, James and I have worked together a bit.
12
I
years.
was on the exhibitor side starting with, and I always wanted Diff to screen their movies with us, and then became part of Dallas Film. And we're always looking for venues and reaching out to exhibitors. But you guys actually run these venues. Do you own them, or are they part of a foundation? Tell us a little bit about the exhibitor side, the physical part of it.
Yeah, we run 3 venues year round. We own one of them. We own a triplex in the Uptown neighborhood called SIFF Cinema Uptown, which seats about 1,000 people in 3 different, 500, 250, 150 kind of thing. We have the Egyptian, which is a 570 seat single screen house, which is beautiful, which is built in the turn of the century. It was a Masonic hall for a long time. And then we have the Film Center, which we built in 2011 on the Seattle Center campus. And that's a 93 seat jewel box of a theater. And we do run all of them year round, obviously during festival, but Seattle used to be a landmark city. And there were 25 different landmark screens. And now there's one landmark theater, which is the Crest, which is all second run, which has 3 screens. Wow. So I'm going to talk about like before times as if they're like now times.
Right.
So between Landmark and SIFF, we had really taught Seattle to watch art house films, to watch international films, to like care about documentaries and these films that weren't in your standard multiplexes. And then when the landmarks started kind of pulling out and closing all their cinemas down, some of them became live music venues, some of them became other things. One of them sadly just burned down a couple of months ago. The Seven Gables just burned down, which was heartbreaking. We started the Egyptian was a landmark cinema, and so we pulled a couple of them out of the wreckage, because the audience is still here, because the audience that we had taught through these 2 different organizations to appreciate these films are still saying, but where can I see this film? Where can I see this film? And one of the interesting things that we've found with our multiplexes like the AMCs or the Regals is that they will go second to us in terms of some of the art house titles, because they'll see we're having such success, financial success with an art house title, that they're like, well, we should be playing that instead of a random Transformers 19 or something that is not having financial success. And so some of the higher grossing films in Seattle, that aren't Harry Potters and Avengers movies are actually some of those art house titles.
That's really cool.
So you said that the audience often will go, well, where can I see that type of movie?
Mhm.
Where can I see that documentary, that indie film? And I feel like a lot of people right now would say, well, you can find it online. You know, you go, it's streaming here, it's streaming there. You can, oh, it's VOD, it's PVOD, whatever. And so now, how do you share with people why you should see it in a theater?
So there's something which is weird because right now we're saying, yeah, the festival, it's all, on your couch and you should sit at home and watch the festival. But that's just this year, just this year. But there's something about being in a cinema with humans. Jump scares are scarier. Laughs are funnier. Creepy feelings are creepier. When you think about watching A Quiet Place, in the cinemas, that was silent because everybody, the atmosphere of it was like nobody can make any noise.
Yeah, you
but you're
all
watching
had
A
to
Quiet Place at
participate.
home. Exactly, it's participatory. You watch A Quiet Place at home and you're like, you're answering your phone, you're putting pause, you're getting up, you're going to the bathroom, you're doing all the, there's something about being forced to be together for that 2 hours of time where it is socially not okay to look at your phone or to talk or to have these other like side experiences that makes everything more heightened.
Mhm.
And that's the experience of being in the cinema.
I love everything about what you just said. And I think we should unpack a little bit of that because when we talk about going to the cinema, we talk about I don't think we talk enough about no distractions. Like you are focused in, yet there's somebody sitting next to you that you don't know. And that could be anywhere else. You'd be like, I'm going to just shy away. Like on an airplane, I don't feel connected to the people on the airplane with me, but I feel connected to everybody in the movie theater because we're sharing the same emotion at the same time. It's this permission to be vulnerable. And the no distraction thing I think is wildly important. You are participating even though because you're really connecting, but you're connecting on this unspoken level that you can then go talk about and share, okay, this is how I reacted. This was my view. What did you think happened here? And why did they do that? So there's so many of those little things and nuances. And I love that it's more than, it's heightened, it's scarier, it's funnier, it's more. I can't wait until we talk less about the movie and more about the experience, because people say, well, it's something like. Once we identify what the something like really is, and it is all of those emotional connections that we've been missing out on. That's where I fall on that. But I love that everything you said about it.
Well, and it's creating a community that you didn't know you were a part of. So I don't know what it's like for you, James, in Dallas, but we show a documentary on gardening, and suddenly, I mean, well, actually, we know what those communities are here, but we'll just keep using it. You're like, oh, I'm sitting next to the mayor, or I'm sitting next to this person that teaches grade school, or I'm sitting next to somebody that our paths would never cross except with this one chosen community of people who are interested in this kind of thing. And that can be genre, people who love late night stuff, people who love Asian films, people who love documentaries, people who are just really into Mongolian sheep herders. It's you create this single community that happens just that once, and it's deep and it's connective, but it's transitory, and you can carry that forward with the people you came with or stand in the lobby until we kick you out. But it is a creation of something.
It's that discovery. You're right. the discovery part, when they have the audience has the trust in you as an organization, as an entity, that's, oh, these guys know what they're talking about. It's really interesting when you see who does show up. Like, to your point about the mayor struck a chord with me. I remember we did a few years ago a documentary about domestic violence, and I didn't know at the time, but the mayor of Dallas at the time, that was a hot topic for him. He sort of campaigned on it whenever something came up. He was in front of all these women's groups about it. And so all of a sudden we get a letter going, hey, the mayor's coming and he's bringing X amount of people. All of a sudden, okay, that's happening. And it becomes a community and almost a social thing. And so this is incredible. Or when you do discover that there is an audience, because sometimes I will see a film that I think people just need to watch this. And I'm showing this Italian soccer music violin thing. And it's really weird. And all of a sudden there's an Italian soccer club hanging out with an Italian club of SMU found out about the film. And also you see there's this audience. So it's sort of a give and take, and it's this reciprocal process. And when you're showing something to a crowd and somehow your marketing is what it is and hopefully good enough that people find out about it, and you discover there is an audience. So now you're thinking, ooh, there's an audience and appetite for this, this, and this. So let's keep going. And it's it's a symbiotic relationship with the locale. So yeah, I love it. And I would just throw some love towards Seattle. I've been there probably 4 or 5 times once for a month back in the early 2000s, and once for a few days with Beth on her jury, and then once after my wedding. We went there for a year anniversary. Love that city, and it is a film city. It is scary how many people, I'm like, man, that's how you have a month-long freaking film festival, because people are coming to it and they're walking to it. And it's, as I'm sitting here in a rainstorm outside our house right now, it's raining a lot, and being inside is a really good place to be. I mean, what's it, 300 days of rain a year?
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, actually probably Dallas gets more rain, like in bulk, but y'all get
inches
like
of rain.
Rain. And it'll just be sort of damp for 300 days of the year.
So Beth,
like it rained this morning, but now it's bright and sunny, and it'll rain again this afternoon.
Brandon's house just got a flood.
Yeah. You had mentioned, again, going back to you guys operate these theaters. So how many people do you employ year round, and then how does that ramp up for the festival?
So I can only use the before times to answer that question, because obviously everything's different now. We had about 30 people year round in the organization, in the office, and another 50 people that worked in the cinemas. So concessionaires, ushers, that sort of thing. And then for the festival, we bring in about 100 people that are working in various different places throughout, just on seasonal work.
And then how
many
many
virtual
volunteers?
Festival obviously has real different. About 800 volunteers, because we run for 25 days in no less than 9 venues a day, all over the city. And some of them are a week, and some of them are 2 weeks, and some of them are the full 25 days.
Yeah, and I think that's one we talk about the exhibition side and the theater side on this podcast quite a bit. So I love that you know about that, and you're sensitive to that. But then, because it's an important part of movie going, is the behind the scenes about who's working there, and that these are actually great jobs and sought out jobs. But when you're talking about film festivals, and James, I'd like you to jump in on DIFF as well, as there's a swell and there's an energy that builds, and it doesn't just ramp up a week before the festival and go on. I mean, talk a little bit about bringing all these people together for these major citywide events.
It's a lot of work. Yeah, you said the week before the festival. So
never a week before. When did you start?
That's actually the calmest week.
Yeah, the calmest week is like right leading up, because everything should be done by now until the fire hits. So you'll start, you'll make your plan, and you start taking submissions. We started, and this is going to be goofy for us. I don't know if you saw, Beth, but DIFF, we had to push our dates again.
Y'all moved again. Yeah.
A lot of fun there.
Your fall festival now.
Yeah, fall festival. It's gonna be great. So when we move, usually during for a spring festival, when we usually start our submissions sometime in the late summer, around August, and in going to a June, when we moved to a June festival, we didn't start our submissions till around a couple months later, October. And now our submissions are just going to keep going. And so the process of, okay, here's what the festival outlined for us. It's like, all right, here's the outline that we're going to do. Here's what we can do. And we start taking submissions. And then by the time you're, 4 months out, well, we're going to do all this. Oh, cool. And then hopefully nothing changes in that last month and a half, but you never know, something either burns down, somebody quits, or your opening night film. I remember at AFI, the opening night film was announced, and I remember, I can't remember, Rose getting a phone call. So we have a new opening night film on literally, I think it was a week before opening night, and it was a mess. And I'm thinking, that sucks. So hopefully things like that don't happen, but your preparation, you're adding on staff. If we ramp up from again, the before times, as you would say, we'd have about 5 to 10, about 10 people, running full-time for a while, and then for the part, and then all of a sudden you're up to about 60 people for the festival. Again, we're just at like 8 days, so we don't need, and we're in 1 to 2 venues at any given day. Like only on Saturday and Sunday we'd be at more than 2 venues at the time, and we're much more, it's going to be here, but we're going to party over here. We're going to show you Dallas, but all your films are going to be in this one place. So yeah, it's a Herculean effort. It's a lot of fun, but the minutia is ridiculous until, again, to Beth's point, about the week before the festival, when you're just sort of, hey man, what's happening?
It's all done at this point. So I'm going to put you on the spot, and you don't have to talk about the theaters that you guys are partnered with or that you own or anything, but think of your worldwide international experience, because y'all are both very international. Your favorite theaters that you've been to around the world.
Ooh. Huh.
That's fascinating. The Sydney Film Festival did their screenings in the Sydney, not in the Opera House, but it's called the State Theater. It's beautiful. It's actually kind of reminds me of the Egyptian, but it's this gorgeous, like 1,500 person, beautiful, like turn of the century, big, deep, crushed velvet seats. I love that. I also love the Seattle Cinerama, which sadly has closed, because had some of the best projection in the world. It was a true Cinerama wrapped screen, 70 foot screen that could show the actual true Cinerama, but 3-strip Cinerama, but they've closed.
James, do you have a favorite theater that you've been to? And why is that such a good theater?
Yeah, I would say because I wish I had my own theaters like Beth does, but for me, it's not as grand. It was more like the functionality of the TIFF Bell Lighthouse, because they thought of it from a film festival perspective, and then a film goer's perspective. I go, wow, they thought of everything. There's actually a stage, there's lighting, there's seat numbers, there's speakers and microphones, there's the ability to do PowerPoints if you need to. There's all these things, and it holds. I think the biggest theater there was either theater 1 or 2, might be 500 seats, maybe. And it's just, like, for me, it's a really good size, and it was new, and it just was so well thought for a modern moviegoer. And then when you walk out of the building, you go, oh, look, there's a bar right here, and then there's concessions right here. Probably the worst thing about it is there's not a lot of lobby space right in front of it. Like, if you're not in that theater, you're like, there's nowhere to sit because they're all crunched together. And after that, I'd say, I forgot which one it is at Cannes. It's not the Palais. I think it's the Debussy theater, which is right next door. And that was my first time at Cannes. I remember walking in there going, this is pretty amazing. I'm in a theater in France, and I'm up here in the balcony with Shaz. I was over at Shaz Bennett, used to be an AFI director. And I'm thinking, yeah, man, this is everything right now. And again, I'm a sucker for a theater with a stage, because I love the opportunity to see the filmmaker and they have a place to stand as opposed to on the carpet in front of the screen. Yeah. Yes.
Love it. So
We actually built out that stage. So
I was there for
an
opening night of
ordinary,
that theater.
Yeah. And we built it out since then. It was an ordinary, like kind of skinny stage. And we built it out more because we host a lot of drag shows. And those queens can't be contained in small spaces.
That's very well thought out. So Beth, are moviegoers coming back in big waves? When is that going to happen? And what's your anticipation for SIFF moving forward beyond this year when you can go in person?
Right. And are all those locations that that SIFF operates, are any of those currently open, and like what capacities or anything?
Yep.
None?
No, Seattle, technically we could be open at 50% capacity. But realistically, people are not ready. We, King County, where Seattle is, has one of the lowest COVID transmission rates in the country because none of us leave our houses. And people are just not ready to go back to a cinema quite yet. AMC's, the AMC in Seattle is open at 50% capacity. So people are going back, but our people, our arthouse and international folks, they are waiting until, the majority of Seattle is vaccinated. We've heard from a lot of them that they don't feel safe unless it is safe. So we are keeping our fingers crossed that everything will keep going the way it goes, and vaccinations will keep rolling out, and we can look at, summer or early fall. It'll take us a couple months to get ramped back up again because, we have to hire all the people back, and we have to, the venues have been closed and empty for a year and a half, or a year now, just over a year. So, by that point, it'll be, we'll have to put some precautions in place and that kind of thing. I honestly think that when we can get back into the cinemas and when people start feeling safe to be there, people will go back, because people miss going to the movies. When you're like, I don't know, what do you want to do? Oh, let's go to the movies. I don't, what do I, I'm wandering around. I'm kind of lost. I have a weird Tuesday off. What should I? Well, let's go to the movies. Mm-hmm. There's something cultural, and this is across the world about us, about society, and just going to the movies. It's an accessible art form. It is a way to get outside yourself for a couple hours. It's been drilled into us for all of our lives that, you go to the movies. Where do you go on your first date with someone? Well, you go to the movies. There's something so intrinsic about the action that I think people are gonna go back. Now, I also think people are going to be more demanding and more discerning about the VOD that they watch. Mm-hmm. Because I think we've all watched through a lot of crap on TV, and it's like, oh, I heard that series was good. Maybe I'll watch 2 of those. Oh, I heard that was okay. I'll watch a couple of those. I actually think, Netflix and Hulu and HBO and Disney Plus are doing a great job keeping us all entertained, and that episodic and serial entertainment is really valid, and that there's some amazing work being done for streaming platforms. But I also think that the simple act of going to the movies is something so deeply, intrinsically in us, that people are going to go back. Now, it may not be until winter that we see large groups of people. And, I stop cringing every time, I'm watching a show on TV and I see a crowd scene and I'm like, oh, and I'm like, it was okay. It was 1985, it's fine. It can happen then. But yeah, I do. I think people are going to go back.
I had a real quick. So I want to jump. I'm sorry. So you mentioned episodic, and it's something I'm thinking about quite a bit as we move into television. So do you guys ever do any one-off like Netflix comes to, hey, we want to show 2 episodes of Orange is the New Black. Do you guys ever think about doing any one-off shows like that in the theaters? Does that ever happen?
We would love to. Yeah, we would love to. We've asked the streamers, and that our timing has never been right.
Okay. This is like a perfect fit because people are going to want to get back in the theaters, and episodic is so big. I think there's definitely a merge here that needs to be addressed. Everybody, a lot of different festivals are doing television. We're going to be doing television. I mean, we live in a city called Dallas. Don't sweat that we're not going to do a TV show called Dallas once or twice here. So yeah, I just think I was just wondering if you guys had gone down that path.
No, we have episodic shorts that are mostly web series based. But we've never had the timing's never been right for any of the big streamers. One of the things I think is going to be really interesting moving forward when things are back to normal, when everything's okay again, is how film organizations and festivals are going to keep this sort of hybrid accessibility accessible. Because we've definitely heard from people that wouldn't ordinarily have been able to participate in some of our classes or some of our films that we're showing, that because we're doing it virtually, they're able to participate. It could be physical accessibility, it could be that Seattle's traffic is so bad and you just can't get from one place to another, and so how as festivals and film orgs, how are we going to think about that and plan to put the infrastructure in place going forward into 21 and 22 that keep those films being able to be seen? And I think it's a giant question for a lot of us. It's it's like, okay, so we show something in the film center for the weekend, and it was a huge hit, and then but you couldn't get there. You were out of town that weekend. Well, if it went on to our SIFF channel for the next couple of weeks, you could still engage with our programming and you could still engage with what we were doing. Or, say you live in rural Washington and you're just like, I'm not driving to Seattle because it'll take 9 hours. And so you can still engage with us. And so I think for a lot of us, those questions, and I think it's across arts, because we have seen some success with, I was talking to somebody from the Pacific Northwest Ballet, and they're saying, more people are actually seeing our programs now, and we're hitting 50, all 50 states. People are watching from all over the country. And how do we keep those people engaged in our programming, though we know they'll never come to our physical building?
Yeah, I think there's something to this that has given film festivals and even other content providers the ability to reach audiences that they never would have reached. However, I still think it's important that there's some exclusivity, that if you make the effort, the experience of going to the theater has to be better, whether that is a intro from the filmmaker or a Q&A or a talk back or bonus scenes or whatever. There just has to be, at least while we rebuild the audiences to go back to the movie theaters. Hey, James, that we've got to offer something. And that's what I think where we talk about with Diff is that this is a very accessible art form. Like, you can bring the filmmakers in, you can talk to them. And what's cool about film festivals, especially when you get like the lounges and the filmmaker, we call it the filmmaker lounge, but it's open to the public, and here's filmmakers walking through and you can stop down, and that's the interaction that I think that you lose with just kind of the everyday movie theaters, and why film festivals become, because there's this moment in time that you create, and it's just one after the other. Every film has an intro, every film has a Q&A, every day that there's this, I could run into a filmmaker. So if I'm an aspiring filmmaker, actor, musician, whatever, these are the people that are doing it. Or I just think the art is great, that form of art, filmmaking. So I just want to be around that. The energy around filmmakers is really cool. And I think that's something that film festivals do really well. Beth, I think it sounds like it's something that you guys really lean into. So congratulations on all your success and running just a fantastic festival.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it is that interaction with filmmakers that that is at the heart of it, and it's the thing that honestly, as we're trying to put together our virtual festival, that is the hardest. Like getting films, that's the easy part. Like we know how to talk to the distributors. We know it's fine. We can get the films. It's how do we connect the filmmakers and the audience, or how do you provide that extra something special? Because you're on your couch and you're watching on your Roku app, which is just like watching Netflix, which is just, but it's like, so what is that next level of special? And so we're organizing a bunch of live Q&As with single filmmakers and a bunch of filmmaker roundtable discussions, and pre-recording some of them, and putting together a SIFF lounge for people, people with passes to kind of go in and interact, and just trying to replicate some of that feeling of being there and listening to a filmmaker, or running into them in line, or even running into somebody else in line and going, well, what did you see? What have you liked?
Yeah,
it's a pretty incredible experience. I know that my first film festival that I ever went to, I was 18, and I went to the East Lansing Film Festival here in Michigan, and I had that exact same experience. Like I bought a pass because I just wanted to be involved in, I wanted basically the gamut to be like, I want to be able to go into any auditorium whenever I want, and go and interact with these people that work in an industry that I respect so much. And I think that that texture that the film festivals are able to provide, of giving people access to people and stories that make you feel more involved in the film itself, is what will ultimately be, I don't want to say what saves the movie going experience. I don't think it needs to be saved, but I do think that you're going to start seeing single exhibitors and smaller exhibitor companies taking a page from film festivals book in order to keep their audiences engaged with what's on the screen.
Yeah,
Eventizing it.
yes,
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're definitely doing it on a year-round level. Is like, so our mission is to create experiences around film that bring people together. So how do you create that experience, and how do you do it if you're showing the same film 5 times a day? How do you make every single one of those feel like an experience? And some of it comes down to your staff and your venue. Is the experience of going to an art house cinema significantly different than going to a multiplex? Some of it comes down to the feeling of supporting a nonprofit arts organization, and that experience being a little bit different. Is it an introduction? Is it a recorded Q&A? Is it a live Q&A? When, like, how do you set yourself apart from either the multiplex or the couch?
I'll say one thing you guys did, and I'm sorry I went away. Power's been going out today. Thank you, weather. It's a very simple, easy thing that you guys, and I think John, I think you guys did this when we worked together back at the other place, Brandon. A person coming up to the front very simply and introducing the film and welcoming you to the theater. That simple bit of interaction goes a long way. And I remember the first time I ever had that was when I was in Seattle. Oh my God, 7, 8 years ago. I'm like, wait a minute, they just talked to me? That was so sweet. All right, we're like friends here. The manager's like, hey, or whoever. And it's funny, that bit of interaction, and it stuck with me. And I'm thinking we should do that at everything. It was shot down, Brandon. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and then it becomes a little bit more logistically challenging on the operations side. It's like, well, how do you staff for introducing every film, and what does that do when you've got your projection system automated, so that you can do it with a little bit less staff? And does that change it? Does having that opportunity go away change the experience?
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of challenges brought to this industry over the past year. For sure. We've discussed a lot of them here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so you guys have the film festival this year is going to be entirely virtual, right? But do you have events
Yes.
that are also going to be going on? Whether or not they're actual open to the public, but there'll be things that people can potentially tune into if they have virtual tickets.
If they have virtual, we have a tribute happening. One of our local luminaries will be getting an award. Most of it is, we don't really have any events. We do have a SIFF lounge. It's all through Gather Town. So it's very cute.
I just did that. That's really cool.
8-bit characters, super fun. It's so fun.
Brandon,
I have a
you should
little
see
Mario
this.
person.
Yeah, me too.
It's so fun. You just like wander around. It's just so different than the Sundance one. Was weird, where you're these like gangly aliens running around and you can run and like stop and hit. It was just like,
yeah,
it creeped me out. And apparently South by was very similar. Ours is very like you have to like use your keyboard to move yourself around. Anyway, so we'll have that so that people can have that sort of interaction feel. We decided not to really do any parties because Zoom parties are so hard, and you can't make people participate on Zoom. And if you got one person up there dancing, it's not a great experience for anybody. So we're going to focus really on trying to interact through the SIFF lounge and through the live Q&As.
That sounds awesome. Like, and I wish you guys a tremendous amount of luck.
Thank you. Fingers crossed.
Passes are on sale right now, but tickets go on sale March 25th, correct?
March, yes, to the general public on the 25th. So the lineup is announced on Wednesday, the 24th of March at 10 a.m. And then
have you announced any films yet?
We have not.
You're 36 hours from announcing.
Yeah, because I was about ready to ask you what are you most excited for, but we probably can't drop that information here, can we?
But let us know so we can update let us know and we'll update.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm actually just really excited about all of the films. There's one film that one of my programmers has been talking about for 2 years. I haven't seen it yet, but that's the one that that I'm most excited to experience, because she just keeps saying, when are you gonna put this up?
I'll probably put it up tomorrow. So it's probably too soon.
We can hold it though.
Yeah, we can hold it.
No. You could put it up. So it's a film called God Exists. Her name is Petrunia. Mm-hmm. And it's Eastern European title that Marina has been talking about for 2 years. It's one of her favorite films of the last couple of years. And she's like, did you see it yet? Did you see it yet? Did you see it yet? I was like, no. So that's the one that I am not gonna miss during the festival.
Okay.
Are you guys using Letterboxd for some communication?
We are. So we're a Letterboxd super user. I don't know what they're called, but it's
HQ.
like,
yeah.
Yes, that's the one. Letterboxd HQ. All of the programmers sent a list of their 10 favorite films and their favorite films of the festival, and we're going to use it mostly for that sort of get to know the programmers, and to try to create some communication and some engagement. We also have a really strong social media team that we have a SIFF Cinephiles Facebook group that anyone can join. It's a bunch of people that really love the festival. It's been heartwarming to hear some of their stories. My first SIFF. Here's
those
what
are always the best.
It really is. Well, because everyone's like, okay, Beth, what's your best, your SIFF origin story? It's like, well, it was in the mid 90s. I can't remember exactly when it would. So I moved here in 93. So it would have been 94 or 5. I had gone to the festival before, but I actually bought a ticket to see To Die For, because I love Nicole Kidman, and she was going to be there. And I was like, well, I have got to have a ticket to that. and it was Gus Van Sant, Nicole Kidman, and it was in this theater that's behind me, the Egyptian Theater. And it was the first time I had actually really heard a well moderated Q&A after a film, and saw somebody that I really like admired. And I was like, oh, that's what festivals do. It's like, oh, that makes more sense now.
And
So,
now here you are.
And now here I am.
Well, what a
Yeah, one of
career
these
you
days.
had.
Yeah, well, and I was able a couple of years ago to tell Gus that story, because he was here for closing night for Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot.
That's awesome.
Now I just need to get Nicole Kidman here and tell her that story, although I might be too nervous to speak, really, if Nicole Kidman's there.
I think you'd be all right. All right,
I
Steph,
will
take us
speak
home.
for you.
Yeah. Any
Right,
final
there we
thoughts
go.
from James or Brandon? Anything else? Any other questions you have for Beth here?
Hey Beth, congratulations! What a year it's been.
Thank you.
Good luck on this year's film festival. We are champions of you. So
Thank
get
you.
out there,
Well,
lead
it's
the way.
most of it's available outside of like all across the U.S. There's only 8 films out of the 94 that are not available everywhere in the country. Just
That's
FYI.
great. Beth is one of my favorite people on the planet. I'm so happy that you took
And
the
James
time to
is
do
one of
this
mine.
with it. It's good
Well,
to see you.
Any friend of
It's good to
James
see you too.
is a friend of ours. So again, good luck to to you and your entire team at the festival for the 47th annual
47th
Film
annual
Festival.
Seattle International Film Festival.
Passes are on sale now. Tickets
They
go
are?
on sale individually on March 25th. And yeah, the festival will run from April 8th till April 18th. And you can get passes and tickets at siff.net, SIFF.net. Everything good?
Yes, that's all perfect.
I'm not lying to anybody?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Nope.
Okay, well, again, Beth, we really, really appreciate having you here, especially taking time preparing for this festival and taking time out of your day to come and talk with us about that experience. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. I as you have just found out, I can talk for any time, any length of time about almost anything.
We'll bring you back
listen
with
to
the,
our
when the
podcast.
Dallas Film Festival's ramping up. And we'll,
Yes.
we'll
Yeah,
do
go me
Yeah, we
this
can put
time.
James on the
do a
spot
regroup.
then.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, fall, what's this going on? Yeah, it's crazy.
Well,
Are you
again,
going to stay at Fall Festival, or are you just trying it for this just because of this year?
TBD. TBD.
well,
All
thank you
moving
again for
around.
coming on the show. We really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
And
Thanks.
yeah,
It's
we'll have to
good to meet
definitely
you
do a
both.
follow-up, and we'll have to hear exactly how this festival went and what were the challenges, what were some of the things you learned, and how film festivals from this point on can grow into something newer, something bigger, something better. But until then, we will see
absolutely.
you at the movies.